Hi, everyone. Today, let's talk about the CPI report. And then we got Jim Cramer saying stuff on the markets already, so we know to do the opposite of what he says here. And to finish up with articles, we'll talk briefly about FTX once again. And then we have some charts to go over. Then we'll finish up with my results for the day and what I'm looking for going into Friday. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So inflation rose less than expected at 0.4% in October, which means it rose 7.7% from a year ago. Core CPI rose 0.3% or 6.3% on an annualized basis. As a result, the market soared and Treasury yields tumbled. You can see what this looks like on the graph, where we had peak inflation here in June. We've been cooling off slowly, and we had a pretty large downtick here from September to October. It was 8.2%, and this time it was 7.7%. So still pretty elevated, but it is slowing down, and that's hopefully going to help the Fed slow down their rate hikes. And I think it's reasonable to expect a 50 basis point hike in December, and still expect that longer-term rate will sustain itself for a longer period of time, like they mentioned in the last Fed meeting. In terms of the more detailed data, vehicle prices declined by 2.4%, apparel went down by 0.7%, and medical care services went down by 0.6%. So despite the fact that overall inflation was up, some things, like car prices, are actually declining, which is helping the overall inflation rate come down. The San Francisco Fed president also mentioned that 1 month of good data does not make a victory, so they will continue to make sure that they are doing the right thing as they continue to raise rates. Which to me means I don't think they're going to do a 75 basis point hike. I think they'll slow down to 50 basis points here in December, as long as we continue to see good data in terms of inflation. Moving over to Jim Cramer, let's see what he has to say about the current big rally in the markets.
Or should we switch and get a little bit more bullish, or sell into strength because it's eventually headed lower?
I was just going over with Jeff Marks, who works with me on Travel Trust, and we are going to sell some things into the opening. We do like some of the different lines that are in this, but not enough. And this kind of reaction has become very typical of an erratic market. And we frankly just don't want to wait for the next bend. Look, your interview with Gary Gensler was very, very dispositive. That we have $1 trillion basically that's up for grabs in a caveat emptor situation. So why not take advantage of this and do some selling?
Bitcoin too, huh?
Well, Bitcoin, I think it's been revealed as, well, let's just say that Bitcoin could fall to 12,000 without a problem. And, the apologists for Bitcoin, it's really getting very thin. And Gensler basically came on and just said, look, you're on your own. Now, I don't want to be on my own. Now, I candidly did make a lot of money in Bitcoin. It was fool's gold. I just did it to play momentum. But I think your interview was very dispositive to getting out of all these things. And this may be a really terrific opportunity.
While I agree to some extent that the markets might be a little bit overvalued in the short term, if Jim Cramer is saying to start offloading stocks, generally that means that this rally is going to continue. We just need to maybe be a little bit patient in the short term, wait till we cool down, and then continue higher from here. Moving over to Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, he admits that he fucked up. They say at one time he was the biggest crypto hero, but now he's begging for billions of dollars to help stave off bankruptcy. A lot of the details of this article are very similar to the ones from yesterday, so definitely check that out. But it's worth noting here they saw $5 billion in withdrawals, and they're facing a shortfall of around $8 billion, which obviously is not a good situation. He says that he's trying to place the well-being of investors as the highest priority, and that he hopes to return a one-to-one value for their external wallets. Of course, who knows how this is going to go at this point. It's certainly not good for cryptos. It's hard to be invested in these companies. And maybe one thing that Jim Cramer said, using this as an opportunity to get out of some things, like crypto, might be a good idea. Although in my opinion, it's not great advice for the stock market right now. Moving over to the markets, not a lot to say here, just a big green bar on the first bar of the 4-hour chart. Got way above that resistance here at 392, and then above this previous resistance here as well, sitting at the lows from September, at the beginning of September here. And it seems like we're continuing up. In terms of a price target, I would expect this to get into the 410 to 412 range. And you could certainly argue that 415 might be a decent price target as well, being the highs from mid-September here. and the lows from the end of August. Otherwise, in terms of being a little bit extended, it's definitely extended. Got all the way to the upper edge of the RSI here on the 4-hour, which is certainly not good. Momentum still very strong. I would expect some kind of retracement at some point, maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday. Definitely keep that in the back of your mind. Huge rally, and it's not always sustainable when you have rallies like this, even when it's on very good and potentially market-changing news. Moving over to the NASDAQ here on the 4-hour chart, the NASDAQ started to outperform once again. Big rally from 264 all the way up to 283, almost 20 points on the day, just short of 20 points. 20 points if you include the previous day close, but did move up a little bit in the pre-market and then rallied from there. Got all the way back to these end of October highs, and that's pretty much where we stalled out. Certainly looks like we got a nice solid double bottom, and then you would have a price target up here of around 303, so another 20 points higher from where we are right now, which would put you back to these beginning of September little bump we had here. Again, similar story. If we did come back and retest this, I wouldn't be mad at it, and then as long as we get that continuation, that would be a really solid trade. Moving back over to the Russell, everything about the Russell says we're going higher. Huge red bar, stronger than the other two major indices. Got all the way back up to the beginning of November highs at 185.50. Got just above that here in the after hours trading. In terms of upward price action, who knows where this is going. Could go all the way back up to 203 in terms of resistance. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a stall somewhere in here at 193.30. That should be an area of resistance, and then back up here at 195.85 as well. So a little bit of resistance, selling action in here. But overall, very bullish structure, more bullish than the other major indices, and definitely one to keep on your trading watch list. Moving over to the SPX versus the Russell. Started moving down again, so the Russell is outperforming the SPX, and this trend seems like it's continuing to the downside. So keep that in mind as you trade the major indices. And to compare the NASDAQ to the Russell, same story here. The NASDAQ made up a bunch of ground, so growth starting to outperform a little bit. And like I mentioned, the Russell is beating the SPY. So we have the SPY underperforming, and then Russell and the NASDAQ doing their best to make up ground. Moving over to top gainers for the day, we have YETI. Huge gain today at 32%. Wildly strong. Finished the day yesterday at 30.30. Finished today at $40. So huge green bars today. Getting way above that 144 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. Stalled out right at the lows here in May and June. And you could certainly see how this could be viewed as a reversal in price. So I don't know if I would buy it here at $40. Probably wait for a little bit of a cool off, maybe buy it back down here at the 144 EMA at $35.30 would probably be my price target. That's also the lows here in September, at the beginning of September. And we had a little bit of interaction with that same price here in the middle of September. So that would probably be where I'd look to buy this, but definitely looking strong here on YETI. Next up, we have Trade Desk, another big gainer, finished at $39.84 and then finished here at $47.50, so almost 20% on the day. Got a little bit above that here in the beginning of the day, but cooled off slightly towards the end of the day. Still very strong. It's not overbought in any condition here. The RSI still looks good. Momentum still looks good. And hopefully this is a nice bottom. Seems like you have solid support here at $40 now. Interacted with that many times here in recent history. As long as we can get above this previous level of resistance, the stock could go all the way up to $76 before it meets any major resistance, in my opinion. Moving over to Unity Software, the software companies did get beat down pretty dramatically here recently, but not today. Stock went from $20 all the way up to $28 at one point, gaining 39% on the day. Massive gainer, definitely beat down over the previous quite a while. Stock traded all the way up to $200 at one point, so very cheap in comparison to that at $20, down 90%, but seems to have found some solid support down here at $20, and maybe we see a nice reversal or a retrace back down to about $24.50 and then a continuation higher. That would be a nice trade in my opinion. Moving over to the dollar, did exactly what you would expect it today. Huge red bars as a reaction to CPI data. Finished right at support here at the mid-September lows. Certainly would not surprise me if we got a little bit of a bounce tomorrow. Got oversold here on the RSI. Momentum is very negative right now. If we got a nice little bounce into here, that should cause equities to go down a little bit and allow some traders to get into the trade. And then hopefully we get a continuation. Looking for this to come back down into the 106.75 range, I think would be the next level of support before maybe continuing down to 105.15 or so. Moving over to junk bonds, J&K did exactly what you would expect. Huge gap up, went from $88 up to $90.83. Back at resistance here again, showing that it might get a little bit of a retrace into tomorrow or Monday. And hopefully we get a continuation and we get a nice little structure here forming to the bottom. That would certainly be great. And that should be good for growth as well. Otherwise, not overbought here on RSI, and momentum is starting to turn green. But again, keep an eye out for a slight retracement and hopefully a continuation. Moving over to TLT, again, did exactly what you would expect. Went from $94.68 all the way up to $98.35. Rallied throughout the day, just a small retrace here, retesting this support. And then we bounced off that support and went higher. So we're just above this previous level that has pretty much dictated this huge downtrend for quite a while. If we get a nice little bounce and continuation up like we saw here from July into August, that should be good for stocks. But of course, we are pretty overbought here on RSI, even on the 1-hour chart. If we move over to the 4-hour chart here, you can see similar story, overbought, big momentum still, getting pretty close to that 144 EMA at $98.86. And it wouldn't surprise me if we got a little bit of a bounce off of that and then hopefully a continuation higher. And if these are the lows here on TLT, I wouldn't be surprised if these are the lows in stocks. Moving over to the VIX, on the daily chart, we're right at support here that we saw in September, slightly below here in June. Certainly could go lower, maybe down to 21, or maybe back down to the most recent lows here at 19. It's still pretty elevated compared to where we have been, more down towards 15. But momentum is starting to increase to the downside here. You can see MACD increasing, pretty close to oversold again on the daily chart. But that should be fairly expected based on the news we got today. Definitely keep an eye on this one. If we get a marginal bounce, it wouldn't surprise me. Back up to the 9 EMA, which is currently at 25.21, and then hopefully a continuation down. Moving over to my results for the day. Not surprisingly, I did pretty well. Not as well as the rest of the markets. Try to make $100 per dollar that the market goes up. But on days like today, it's just too hard to do. The NASDAQ went up almost 20 points, and I only made about $1,000, so still pretty good. Getting close to break even here on my Roth once again, and almost $1,000 just here on my individual account. I still have positions going into tomorrow for potential profits, and then I'm starting to stretch out here to Monday, and I will probably look for a trade for the Wednesday expiration on the NASDAQ, depending on what kind of prices we get tomorrow. I also put a trade on AMD, which turned out well. I wanted to close this, but I ran out of day trades here on my IRA. Hopefully we can get past this 25,000 so I don't have to worry about that. But I'll probably roll this tomorrow so I can stay a little bit more invested here on my IRA between IWM and AMD or maybe Chewy. In terms of current positions, this is basically at $0, 48 cents sold, already a 45-cent profit. I have a 182 put here on IWM, 29 cents out of 58 cents, so a little bit more there. Probably be looking to roll this out to Monday tomorrow. And then we have 3 puts here on the Qs, 277.50 for 78 cents, 2 of those, expiring tomorrow, and then 1 275 for 95 cents on Monday. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the CPI data or any of the other things that I talked about. And definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.